Welcome. So this deep dive is a little unusual for us. We're taking just one source. It's an excerpt from a YouTube transcript, actually, called The Vibes Battle Scars. And we're going to treat it like, well, like a raw philosophical text. Short, yeah, but really packed with the language of resilience and personal cost. Our mission today, really, is to get past the kind of poetic feel of it and dig out the hard strategy. We want the practical blueprint. How do we actually forge identity? What's the real cost of deep, necessary growth? And why do some battles leave these permanent but essential marks? It's not just about reading metaphors. It's more about understanding the internal logic of how we build ourselves.
That internal logic, yeah, that's the key. Because this text, it gives us this really powerful, almost kind of brutal narrative of struggle, but also synthesis. So the framework we'll use is pretty simple. How does a speaker intentionally use adversity, hardship, to define who they are? We're looking for those patterns, the things that might help us navigate our own difficult journeys. Shifting focus, maybe, from just the pain itself to the capability we gain from it.
Okay, let's jump right into that journey then. It starts with this really striking sense of, well, weary confidence, maybe. The speaker doesn't sound surprised by where they are. They declare this familiarity with the path. I've been down this road before, ain't no strangers anymore.
Right. And that line is so important because it signals, I think, that the speaker isn't a victim anymore, not just reacting to things. They're like a veteran of their own life. It's situational awareness. They know the terrain. And maybe more importantly, they seem to know the cost of admission.
And they lay out that cost and benefit almost immediately. It's like an emotional balance sheet. Lost some friends and gained some scars.
Yeah, and we often focus only on the lost side, don't we? The lost comfort, the relationships, maybe. But the insight here, I feel, is recognizing that those emotional costs, the ones needed for transformation, they're already sunk costs. They've been paid. The speaker says it plainly that the result of this loss and gain thing is already part of their identity. It's made me who I am so far. So the real value isn't in avoiding the loss, but in seeing what capability the scars actually represent. They're like a library of survival tactics.
Library of survival tactics. I like that. But if they have this mastery, this kind of acceptance, why does it still feel a bit isolated? They mention the full range, seeing the highs, I felt the lows, but then emphasize the very private nature of the really hard parts. Been to places no one knows.
Well, that just highlights the truth, doesn't it? That the really significant battles, the ones that define our resilience, they happen internally. Nobody else sees that conversation you have with yourself at, 3 in the morning when you feel genuinely broken. That private struggle is where the real forging happens. And the speaker absolutely confirms that vulnerability. I've been broken. I've been torn.
Wow, yeah, that's a huge admission of damage. But it's almost instantly countered, defensively.
It is, isn't it? That vulnerability, it's immediately followed by this statement of learned skill. But I've learned to weather every storm.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the central psychological tension in the whole piece, recognizing the profound damage, yeah. But at the same time, asserting complete mastery over the very environment that caused it. It's this refusal, maybe, to be permanently defined by temporary chaos.
Still, there's that flicker of humanity, right? That desire to kind of wish the pain away in hindsight. They admit wanting to take these scars away, but that longing is immediately reined in by this commitment to the present. Keep my feet on solid ground.
That tension is just so profoundly human. I mean, who wouldn't want to edit their past to remove the painful bits? But the wisdom there, I think, is in prioritizing grounding over fantasy. You might regret the path, sure, but you commit to the stability that path, in the end, provided. And that commitment to staying grounded, even with the scars, it sort of sets the stage for the ultimate test of their transformation.
And that test involves fire. It doesn't ease into it. The narrative just goes straight there. I ran through the fire and felt the burn. That's not accidental exposure. That sounds like a choice, an intentional act.
Running toward the burn. Yes, it's the complete opposite of self-protection, isn't it? Psychologically, this is where the real forging happens. Steel doesn't get stronger by shielding it from heat. It gets stronger by heating it way past its breaking point and then tempering it. The pain, the burn, it's presented as necessary. The speaker achieves the self-renewal only because they use the destruction as, raw material. Confirmed right away by, from the ashes I return.
It connects straight to that idea of radical acceptance, maybe. They aren't running away from the struggle. It feels like they're suggesting avoidance would actually compromise who they are. I won't shelter from the flame.
Exactly. Sheltering is stagnation. The insight there for you listening might be realizing that the biggest block to growth often isn't the difficulty itself. It's our own instinct to seek comfort, to avoid the heat. The speaker seems to demonstrate that staying in the heat is actually integral to maintaining that new, stronger identity they forged. It's like saying, if I avoid this, I stop becoming who I'm meant to be.
Okay, if the forging process is so clear fire, burn, ashes, return, why does it suddenly get messy? Right in the middle, there's this weird raw interruption to the reflection. And all these bottles heat open, and all these battle stars, What's that about?
Yeah, that part's jarring. It feels like the camera suddenly cuts from the poetic montage to show the raw human reality of what transformation actually feels like while it's happening. The fire metaphor is one thing, but the bottles, that repetition of heat, it suggests coping mechanisms, maybe, emotional turbulence, perhaps even some destructive behaviors that exist alongside the resilience. Transformation isn't clean. It's often really chaotic, overwhelming.
So the battle stars, then, that's how the source puts it, they're like the visible, maybe unintentional marks from that chaotic effort, different from the more philosophical scars.
Precisely. I think that's a great way to put it. Scars are marks of wisdom, maybe lessons learned. Battle stars, they could be the physical or emotional evidence of the fight itself. Maybe a fight that wasn't handled perfectly, but, was fought anyway. It reminds us that even when we're consciously running through the fire for growth, the process itself is turbulent, and it often involves this messy mix of strength and vulnerability, especially when dealing with that intense internal heat.
Okay, so we have this really powerful internal process of self-forging. Let's widen the lens a bit. How does this identity stack up against the external world? Where did it start? The source gives us a location. Growing up just out of town where fields were green and the sun went down.
Yeah, it sets a scene, doesn't it? Simple beginnings, maybe slower. It's the baseline. The place where chasing more wasn't necessarily the default mode yet, but as soon as the speaker seems to engage with the broader world, that social pressure hits.
And the speaker drove a really clear line between their own values and their peers. So many friends who have wanted more. They clearly define what that more isn't for them.
Yeah, and this feels like a fundamental philosophical split. The friends are maybe chasing something quantifiable, external, more money, status, the usual things. But the speaker they had love for said it will get you very far. Now, that phrasing is a little awkward in the transcript, but it suggests they prioritize something internal, right? Passion, dedication, maybe love for the craft itself, believing that internal drive is the real measure of success, of longevity, unlike that externally defined more.
And that path is made really concrete with this specific image. Chasing dreams with your guitar. That's the tangible proof of taking the road less traveled. It's the opposite of chasing material more.
It creates this almost existential separation. The friends are chasing outcomes. The speaker is chasing meaning through the process itself. And this difference leads right to that core statement about individuality, about feeling misunderstood. How could they ever understand? It's what makes me who I am. The scars, the fire, the focus on the craft, it all bundles together into this inseparable package that defines the self. And others, well, they just can't really get the value system unless they've maybe chosen a similar path focused on intrinsic fulfillment.
It really is the ultimate synthesis, isn't it? Wrapping that whole journey back into like a protective shell. The struggle itself becomes the source of strength. The fire transforms into a kind of sanctuary. They end with, I ran through the fire as shelter from the world.
That line is just a brilliant final flip. The very thing that hurt the most, that necessary searing struggle, is now the thing that defines their boundaries. They don't need external walls, maybe. Their self-forged resilience, complete with all the scars, and yes, the battle stars, that is the barrier. It's a model where authenticity, identity, it's only achieved by running into the source of growth, by refusing to shelter from that necessary pain.
Wow. That is a tremendously powerful way to think about the architecture of resilience. It almost suggests that if you, the listener, are currently in a period of intense heat or change, maybe you shouldn't be looking for the exit sign, but perhaps looking for the nearest blacksmith to help you hammer out your next form.
Well, maybe. The key takeaway, I think, is recognizing that your identity isn't just passively collected over time, it's actively forged. Through intentional, endured adversity, the scar becomes the map of the courage it took to stay in the flame.
This has been a really compelling deep dive into what it means to truly own your journey, scars and all. So if the speaker's identity is defined by those scars, by the road they travel, the fire, the ashes, chasing something meaningful, leaves us with a question for you. What essential, maybe transformative road are you currently on, right now, that is defining your capabilities, your character, even if you don't quite recognize the shape of the resulting scar just yet? Something to think about as you navigate those familiar roads that, well, maybe lead to necessary change.